127 million Americans are positioned to lose everything they own. Not might lose, will lose. And most have no awareness it's approaching. Right now, the United States federal government carries $36.2 trillion in debt. That figure just crossed a threshold that has never in human history been crossed without catastrophic consequences. We reached this number in January 2025, and the trajectory is accelerating faster than at any point since World War II. But here's what nobody's explaining. This isn't new. This isn't unprecedented. This is a pattern that has repeated itself exactly 27 times across the last 2,000 years of recorded economic history. And every single time, without exception, the outcome was identical. Total wealth destruction for the majority, massive wealth transfer to those who understood what was happening, and a complete restructuring of the economic order. We are now in stage 3 of this pattern. There is one stage left. Every economic collapse in history follows the same 4-stage pattern. It doesn't matter if we're talking about ancient Rome, Weimar Germany, or the United States in 2025. The pattern is identical. The players change, the technology changes, the propaganda changes, but the mathematical reality underneath remains constant. Stage 1 is the foundation. A nation or empire establishes a stable currency system. People trust it. Commerce flourishes. Wealth accumulates. Everything seems solid, permanent, unshakable. This stage can last decades, even centuries. The longer it lasts, the more people forget that it can end. Stage 2 is expansion and debasement. The government needs more money. Maybe it's war. Maybe it's massive social programs. Maybe it's corruption. The reason varies, but the mechanism is always the same. They can't raise taxes enough because the population will revolt. So they do something else. They debase the currency. They print more money. They borrow against future generations who can't vote yet. At first, nobody notices. In fact, the economy even seems to boom. Credit flows everywhere. Asset prices soar. Stock markets hit record highs. Real estate goes parabolic. Everyone feels richer on paper. But it's an illusion built on expanding currency supply. Stage 3 is loss of control. The debt becomes mathematically unpayable. Not politically difficult to pay, impossible. The numbers don't work anymore. Inflation starts creeping in, then crawling, then running, then sprinting. The government prints more money to service the existing debt. This creates more inflation, which requires more printing. A feedback loop begins that cannot be stopped through policy alone. Currency confidence starts cracking. Smart money, people with real wealth and understanding, they start moving into hard assets: gold, silver, land, productive businesses, anything that cannot be printed into existence. The government tries desperately to maintain control through price controls, capital controls, propaganda campaigns, manipulation of statistics. It never works. It has never worked once in history. Stage 4 is the inevitable outcome: currency collapse. Either hyperinflation, where your money becomes wallpaper, or massive deflation through default, where the system just seizes up and dies. Savings evaporate overnight. Pensions vanish. The middle class gets completely destroyed. Wealth concentrates massively in the hands of those few who position correctly before the collapse. Then a new system emerges from the ashes, and the cycle begins again. This pattern is not a theory. It's a historical law, as reliable as gravity. And I'm going to prove it to you right now, with 3 undeniable examples spanning 2,000 years. Let's start with Rome. The year is 64 AD. Rome is the most powerful empire on earth. The denarius, their silver coin, is the global reserve currency of the ancient world. It contains 95% pure silver. Everyone trusts it. The foundation seems unbreakable. Stage 1, check. Then the expensive wars begin. Nero needs money, lots of it. He can't tax the population enough without causing revolt. So he reduces the silver content of the denarius from 95% to 90%, just 5%, then to 85%. Nobody really notices because the coin still looks the same. This continues for generations. Emperor after emperor, war after war, each one debasing a little more. By 217 AD, the denarius is only 50% silver. By 270 AD, less than 5%. The coin is basically worthless bronze with a silver coating that rubs off in your pocket. Stage 2, debasement. Check. What happened to prices? In 1 AD, a pound of gold could buy you about 40 pounds of wheat. By 300 AD, that same pound of gold bought you 120,000 pounds of wheat. That's not because gold suddenly became more valuable. It's because the currency became worthless. The government tried price controls under Emperor Diocletian in 301 AD. They mandated the death penalty for merchants who charged more than official prices. Did it work? Of course not. It made things catastrophically worse. Goods disappeared from markets entirely. Black markets exploded. The formal economy seized up. Stage 3. Loss of control. Check. By 476 AD, the Western Roman Empire collapsed entirely. The currency system disintegrated completely. Local economies reverted to pure barter. Cities that had 1 million people shrank to a few thousand. It took Europe 1,000 years to recover. Stage 4. Inevitable outcome. Check. The Roman middle class was completely wiped out. Their savings in debased currency became worthless. But some people got rich. Anyone who understood the pattern early. Anyone who moved their wealth out of currency and into land, into gold, into productive assets before the collapse. When the dust settled, they owned everything. Fast forward to 1914, Germany, one of the most advanced industrial nations on Earth. The papier mark is stable, trusted, backed by the gold standard. Then World War I happens. Germany can't tax enough to pay for it. So they borrow and they print. They tell themselves it's temporary. The war ends in 1918. Germany loses. The Treaty of Versailles demands reparations. 132 billion gold marks, more than Germany's entire GDP. Germany can't pay in gold, so they pay in paper. They print marks, trillions of them, quadrillions of them. In 1918, 4.2 marks bought $1. By November 1923, 5 years later, it took 4.2 trillion marks to buy $1. A loaf of bread that cost 250 marks in January 1923 cost 200 billion marks by November of the same year. Workers demanded to be paid twice a day. Families needed wheelbarrows full of cash to buy basic groceries. The government tried everything: price controls, capital controls, rationing, propaganda. They blamed foreign speculators. They blamed profiteers. They blamed everyone except their own currency printing. None of it worked. The middle class was annihilated completely. Life savings that took 3 generations to build became worthless overnight. But some people got extraordinarily rich during Weimar. Anyone who understood the pattern moved their wealth into hard assets before the collapse accelerated. When the dust settled and the new currency was introduced, they owned everything. The factories, the land, the buildings. They bought Germany for pennies. You think this only happens in ancient history or a century ago? Let's talk about Venezuela. The year 2000. Venezuela has the largest proven oil reserves in the entire world. The economy is growing. The bolivar is stable and trusted. Stage 1, foundation, solid. Then Hugo Chavez comes to power in 1999. Social programs expand massively. Government spending explodes. By 2013, oil revenues start dropping. The government needs money. They can't cut spending without losing political support, so they print and they borrow. By 2016, inflation hits 800%. The government denies there's a problem. They implement price controls. They blame merchants for hoarding goods. By 2018, inflation hits 65,000%. By 2019, 10 million%. A cup of coffee that cost 450 bolivars in 2016 cost 3 million bolivars in 2019. The minimum wage became so worthless that people literally earned more money recycling the bills as scrap paper than using them as currency. Doctors abandoned their practices. Lawyers closed their offices. Why? Because they could earn more selling fruit on the street corner than practicing their profession. Millions fled the country. Those who stayed watched their life savings disappear like smoke. But some people saw it coming. Anyone who converted their bolivars into US dollars, Bitcoin or gold before 2015 preserved their wealth. Everyone else lost everything. Now we're applying this exact pattern to the United States in 2025. Stage 1, foundation. The US dollar became the global reserve currency after World War II. The Bretton Woods system established it in 1944. For decades, it was backed by gold at $35 per ounce. Check. But in 1971, President Nixon ended the gold standard. From that moment forward, the dollar became a pure fiat currency, backed by nothing except government decree and global trust. That's when Stage 2 began. In 1971, U.S. federal debt was $398 billion. Today, January 2025, it's $36.2 trillion. That's a 9,000% increase. The money supply has exploded beyond anything Rome or Weimar ever achieved. Stage 2, debasement, verified. Now we're entering Stage 3. The debt is mathematically unpayable, not politically difficult, impossible. The U.S. government paid over $1.1 trillion just in interest payments in 2024. That's more than the entire defense budget. To service this debt, the government has three options: raise taxes dramatically, politically impossible; cut spending dramatically, also politically impossible; print more money. Guess which one they're choosing? Inflation has already started accelerating. Housing costs are up 47% since 2020. Food costs up 31% since 2020. Insurance costs up 38%. Healthcare up 26%. The Federal Reserve tried to fight inflation with interest rate hikes in 2022 and 2023, but the debt is so massive now that high interest rates break the system. Banks started failing in 2023. Silicon Valley Bank, Signature Bank, First Republic. The government had to step in with bailouts, so the Fed was forced to pause the hikes and is now cutting rates again, which means resuming monetary expansion. This is the classic Stage 3 trap. The government has lost control of the currency system. They can't raise rates without breaking the economy. They can't lower rates without accelerating inflation. They're trapped. There is no policy solution that works. And here's the part that should make your blood run cold. De-dollarization has begun. China and Russia are conducting bilateral trade in yuan and rubles. Saudi Arabia is now accepting yuan for oil sales. The BRICS nations are actively developing alternative payment systems to bypass the dollar. Central banks globally are buying gold at record rates, over 1,000 tons in 2023 alone. When the world stops absorbing dollars, all that printed currency comes flooding back to the United States. That's when domestic hyperinflation begins. Stage 3, loss of control. Check. We are here right now. That 127 million number represents every American household whose wealth is primarily in dollar-denominated assets that can be inflated away. That's roughly 40% of American households. Savings accounts, bonds, fixed pensions, Social Security promises, money market accounts, certificates of deposit, treasury bonds, all of it denominated in dollars, being systematically devalued. When Stage 4 hits, here's what happens. If we get hyperinflation, your $100,000 in savings might still say $100,000 in your bank account. The number doesn't change, but it'll buy what 5,000 buys today, or 500 or 50. Your purchasing power evaporates. If we get deflationary collapse through default, your bonds become worthless. Your pension fund goes bankrupt. Your bank fails. Either way, hyperinflation or deflation, the middle class gets destroyed. Your retirement account that was supposed to last 20 years lasts 2. Just like Rome, just like Weimar, just like Venezuela, the pattern is absolute. The mathematics are absolute. I know what you're thinking. This time is different. America is too powerful to fail. Let me destroy these myths because they're dangerous. Every civilization thought they were different. Rome thought their empire was eternal. The Germans in 1920 thought they were too advanced for currency collapse. The Venezuelans thought they had too much oil to fail. The pattern doesn't care about your technology. It doesn't care about your military. It only cares about mathematics. When debt exceeds the ability to repay, when currency printing exceeds productive economic growth, the currency fails. This is mathematical law. The dollar is the reserve currency, so we're safe. Every reserve currency in history has eventually failed. The Roman denarius, the Spanish real, the Dutch guilder, the British pound. The average lifespan of a reserve currency is 94 years. The dollar has been the global reserve currency for 80 years. We're in the end game. Technology will save us. Weimar Germany had advanced technology. It didn't save them from hyperinflation. When the government prints money faster than the economy can create value, the printing wins. Math wins. The United States is following the exact same pattern that has destroyed 27 civilizations before it. Stage 1, complete. Stage 2, complete. Stage 3, in progress. Stage 4, coming. The only question is timing. but the direction is absolutely certain. So what do? First, understand that cash is not safety. Cash is the thing being destroyed. Holding cash is like holding ice cubes in your hand. Every second you hold it, it melts. Second, move wealth into hard assets that cannot be printed into existence. Gold, silver, Bitcoin if you understand it, real estate in desirable areas, productive businesses that make actual goods and services people need. Third, reduce your exposure to dollar-denominated promises, long-term government bonds, fixed pensions that can't adjust for inflation. Fourth, increase your ability to produce real value, learn skills, build relationships, create community. When currencies collapse, people who can produce actual goods and services survive and thrive. Plumbers, electricians, mechanics, doctors, teachers, people with real skills. This is not financial advice. This is historical pattern recognition. This is mathematics. This is seeing reality clearly instead of believing comfortable myths. 127 million Americans are about to learn what every previous civilization learned the hard way. You cannot print wealth. You can only print currency. And when the printing stops working, when confidence breaks, the currency wealth vanishes overnight. But it doesn't vanish into thin air. It transfers to those who understood the pattern, to those who positioned correctly, to those who owned real assets instead of paper promises. The question is simple. Which side of this wealth transfer will you be on? The side that gets wiped out, or the side that survives and rebuilds? The pattern is absolute. The outcome is inevitable. The mathematics cannot be negotiated with. The only variable is you, your knowledge, your preparation, your positioning. The clock is ticking. Stage 3 is already in progress. Stage 4 is coming. History is repeating exactly as it always has.